Chad?
First of all, I want to say Max, his name is Pastor Marsh. First of all, I'd like to welcome everybody here and thank everybody for coming and celebrate and recognize the life of my dad and your friend, Bill Collard. My dad would be very proud. So many people came from so far away. But then he'd bluntly ask you how much you spent and probably told you spent too much. As many of you know, my dad had certain phrases that were guaranteed, that you were guaranteed, or I was guaranteed, and my sister was, to hear at least during one of every single conversation you had with him. We later coined these phrases Billisms. The Billisms pertaining to my sister and I usually focused around the area of fiscal responsibility. Some of the ones that were the most piercing turned out to be, you can't spend more than you make, how much does it cost, is your name Rockefeller, send cash, it's easier to carry, take care of the nickels and dimes and the dollars will take care of themselves. And then there was a philosophical Bill who at times could be mistaken for Socrates and Aristotle with such phrases like, it's so simple, what might have been, and my all-time favorite, if you want to dance, you've got to pay the fiddler. There were three notable times that I heard that phrase. They were valuable life lessons. There were no lengthy lectures from here, only those 11 words to haunt me for the rest of my life. I remember on my 18th birthday, he said to me, son, today's your 18th, and then it will go 19th, 20, 21, and 40. And in many cases, he was right. And I'm glad to tell him in the last hours that his words did sink in. My sister and I appreciate his thoughts and discussions, whether we liked it or not. Several of these discussions happened recently. As many of you know, my dad wasn't well over the last couple of years. 3 weeks ago, our family had to deal with the dreaded balance of curative versus quality of life. This was the second time my family experienced this. But this time, my dad, in his own matter-of-fact way, made the decision a little easier because he told us exactly what he wanted. There were no second guesses, no regrets, and no doubts. We shared many thoughts during the final week, and when we decided to move him from Sarasota Memorial to hospice, he really only asked one question: how much does it cost? And when we told him that it was free, he so eloquently spoke that free is good. In the final days, he was honest and open. He truly appreciated the people in this room. He mentioned many of you by name. My dad was a loyal and a trusting person. And if you're here today, it probably means that you didn't cross him at some particular point in time because he would have written you off. As young kids, it was hard for Sue and I to understand why we could only see him on weekends. I believe things happen for a reason, and many years it became clear why we came down this path. There are many memories of Sue and I that we could share, but the significant one started in 1974 when he took us over to a friend's house, a friend that we didn't meet for some time, a friend who had a house that was a lot nicer than the apartment he was living in. He took me there one time to watch a football game, only to find out it wasn't on regular TV. So we proceeded to the Red Barn to watch it. Needless to say, my mom, Graceka, wasn't thrilled about his choice of viewing locations. We later learned his friend would soon become the greatest thing that ever happened to him, and in turn to us, as he married that friend 17 years later. Ellen was a central part of his life, and I know that he couldn't have lived without her, so this is the way, unfortunately, the script had to be written. He was very proud of friends, nieces, nephews, and his grandsons, Matthew, Josh, and Max. He enjoyed spending time with them. Only recently did I learn that his sister, my dad's sister, said, you couldn't meet a nicer kid than Max. Sorry, cuz, but that's what she said and he agreed with, and I can agree without hesitation. Josh was his artist. He enjoyed his pictures and always enjoyed being around him. And Max was the only human being on this earth that could actually make him watch the Wiggles. I remember one of the last smiles that he had was when he walked in and he said, hi, Grandpa. During a recent trip last year, my dad turned to Matthew and said, right if you find work, as we were leaving to head back to Buffalo. Matt asked me in the car if, he said, does Grandpa Bill really expect me to find a job? I'm only 11. I said, no, that's just Grandpa Bill being Grandpa Bill. Speaking of writing, in 2002, shortly after Carly passed away, he wrote a letter to explain how proud he was of Carol Ann and I for the way we handled the circumstances leading up to her passing. I saved that letter and referenced it often. He told me it was one of only a handful of letters he had written. Like the friends he selected, he always focused a little bit more on quality than quantity. If I was writing a book, I would not leave this chapter out and make it a mystery. I would open it by saying he was born to live and then to die, and he did it his way. He lived life like there was no tomorrow. He planted trees, played golf, enjoyed his family, and had the pleasure of living life with Ellen. He would be very proud of everything that he accomplished, and he'd be proud of the people in this room. And his final thoughts likely would be, to every one of you, it was my time to wander down the line. Thank you very much for sharing this day with our family and for remembering him and to celebrate. And I really appreciate everything that you meant in his life. Thank you. I'd like to call up Mike Deneen.